sekarang ini diupayakan untuk mengembangkan segala potensi yang dimiliki dan berkolaborasi dengan berbagai pihak untuk mencapai reputasi tersebut.
With enlightening and elevating the nation as its motto, Universitas Negeri Jakarta offers world-class programs combined with a touch of local culture through sports, multiculturalism, local wisdom, future leadership, and entrepreneurship. Achievements in pencaksilat, gymnastics, arts, languages, humanities, social and natural sciences stem from a focus on student-centered practical and innovative teaching and learning practices have received international recognition. Our 8 faculties: Faculty of Education, Faculty of Languages and Arts, Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Faculty of Social Sciences, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Sports Sciences, Faculty of Economics, Faculty of Psychological Education, Graduate School Master Programs, Graduate School Doctoral Programs, 1 Graduate School and 101 study programs comprising of diploma, undergraduate and postgraduate levels. Universitas Negeri Jakarta will prepare you to meet the demands of local and global professional industries. Warm welcomes awaits you as you become a member of Universitas Negeri Jakarta's family. As you enter the gates of Universitas Negeri Jakarta, prepare to take a unique academic journey in a place where multicultural perspectives and practices create an atmosphere that will meet your highest expectations and help you reach your goals. Situated in the heart of the capital city of Indonesia, Universitas Negeri Jakarta has played an important role in developing scholarship in education, science, art, technology, and sport since 1964. Formally established as Teacher Training Institute, Universitas Negeri Jakarta has a long history in providing the state with outstanding teachers. A 1999 mandate by the Ministry of Education and Culture sparked a period of dynamic expansion within the institution, turning it into the leading state university in Indonesia that it is today.
menghadapi tantangan global di era revolusi industri, diperlukan sumber daya manusia yang unggul, yaitu sumber daya manusia yang kompeten, kreatif, komunikatif, dan kolaboratif. UNJ sebagai perguruan tinggi mempunyai tugas utama dalam bidang kependidikan dan non-kependidikan, juga mempunyai tanggung jawab untuk menghasilkan sumber daya manusia yang unggul. Saat ini, UNJ menetapkan dirinya melalui visi menjadi universitas bereputasi di kawasan Asia. Oleh karena itu, segala daya upaya sekarang ini diupayakan untuk mengembangkan segala potensi yang dimiliki dan berkolaborasi dengan berbagai pihak untuk mencapai reputasi tersebut.
With enlightening and elevating the nation as its motto, Universitas Negeri Jakarta offers world-class programs combined with a touch of local culture through sports, multiculturalism, local wisdom, future leadership, and entrepreneurship. Achievements in pencaksilat, gymnastics, arts, languages, humanities, social and natural sciences stem from a focus on student-centered practical and innovative teaching and learning practices have received international recognition. Our 8 faculties: Faculty of Education, Faculty of Languages and Arts, Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Faculty of Social Sciences, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Sports Sciences, Faculty of Economics, Faculty of Psychological Education, Graduate School Master Programs, Graduate School Doctoral Programs, 1 Graduate School and 101 study programs comprising of diploma, undergraduate, and postgraduate levels. Universitas Negeri Jakarta will prepare you to meet the demands of local and global professional industries. Warm welcomes awaits you as you become a member of Universitas Negeri Jakarta's family. As you enter the gates of Universitas Negeri Jakarta, prepare to take a unique academic journey in a place where multicultural perspectives and practices create an atmosphere that will meet your highest expectations and help you reach your goals. Situated in the heart of the capital city of Indonesia, Universitas Negeri Jakarta has played an important role in developing scholarship in education, science, art, technology, and sport since 1964. Formally established as teacher training institute, Universitas Negeri Jakarta has a long history in providing the state with outstanding teachers. A 1999 mandate by the Ministry of Education and Culture sparked a period of dynamic expansion within the institution, turning it into the leading state university in Indonesia that it is today.
Untuk menghadapi tantangan global, di era revolusi industri diperlukan sumber daya manusia yang unggul, yaitu sumber daya manusia yang kompeten, kreatif, komunikatif, dan kolaboratif. UNJ sebagai perguruan tinggi mempunyai tugas utama dalam bidang kependidikan dan non-kependidikan, juga mempunyai tanggung jawab untuk menghasilkan sumber daya manusia yang unggul. Saat ini, UNJ menetapkan dirinya melalui visi menjadi universitas bereputasi di kawasan Asia. Oleh karena itu, segala daya upaya sekarang ini diupayakan untuk mengembangkan segala potensi yang dimiliki dan berkolaborasi dengan berbagai pihak untuk mencapai reputasi tersebut.
With enlightening and elevating the nation as its motto, Universitas Negeri Jakarta offers world-class programs combined with a touch of local culture through sports, multiculturalism, local wisdom, future leadership, and entrepreneurship.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please? The webinar will be begun soon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning all, the Honorable Counselor of the State University of Jakarta, the Honorable Postgraduate Director and his staff, dear all professor and postgraduate lecturers, welcome to all speaker, Mr. Gogot Suharwoto, PhD, and Mr. Robert Mijumpakita Pinem, SEB, MBA, Professor Barbara Hurgens, PhD, Professor Bahrul Hayat, PhD, and all the students of the State University of Jakarta and all the participants. Welcome to the webinar with the overview assessment on teaching and learning process in higher education, lesson learned from Germany, South Korea, and Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Wal Mahnikmat Rahmah, and I'm so excited to be your host for this event. We hope that this webinar will be interesting and informative for you, as well as improving assessment skill and cooperation between universities and especially cross-country relations. First of all, let's thank to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has given us guidance, happiness, health, and mercy so we can attend and participate in this special event. And then praise and salutation upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who had brought us to the path of light from the darkness in his life. All of the audience, on this special morning, we have several agenda as follows. First opening, reciting a prayer, sing together the anthem of Indonesia Raya, Mars State University of Jakarta, and Hymn State University of Jakarta. And then speech from the speaker, giving souvenir to the speaker, and last closing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin this event by reciting a prayer led by Mr. Mujiansah. Mr. Mujiansah is welcome to recite a prayer. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Marilah kita berdoa sesuai dengan agama masing-masing. Dan saya memimpin doa dengan cara Islam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Hamdan katsiran tayyiban mubarakan bih. Mubarakan alaihi kama yuhibbu rabbuna wa yarda. Ya Allah, hari ini Kamis tanggal 20 Juli 2023 di Universitas Negeri Jakarta diadakan webinar Overview Assessment on Teaching and Learning Process in Higher Education, Lesson Learned from Jerman, South Korea, and Indonesia. Dengan kegiatan itu, berkahilah kami, beri rahmat kepada kami, beri kesehatan kepada kami, dan ampunilah segala dosa serta kehilapan kami, ya Allah. Kepada narasumber Bahrul Hayat, PhD, selaku Wakil Rektor Universitas Islam Internasional, Gugut Suharwoto, PhD, Atasi Pendidikan dan Kebudayaan Indonesia di Korea Selatan, Profesor Dr. Barbara Hurgens, PhD, Ice Lecturer and Institute for Pedagogics, Psikologi Universitas Braunschweig, Jerman. Semoga apa yang narasumber berikan menjadi pelajaran berharga, kontribusi nyata dan berguna untuk kami dan generasi yang akan datang. To Profesor Dr. Barbara Hurgens, PhD, thank you very much. The professor happy and often to come to Indonesia for the love sharing education around the world. I hope this partnership will be the basis for success. Professor Dr. Barbara Hurgens, PhD, for his next assignment. May Allah always bless you. Ya Allah yang memiliki kesempurnaan, beri kami ilmu, kesabaran, kelapangan, dan kesuksesan dalam segala hal yang diridai. Ya Allah, berikan kepada para pemimpin kami, dosen-dosen dan guru-guru kami, serta ahli pendidik, dimanapun berada, akan keberkahan, kesehatan, dan kesuksesan. Ya Allah, segala permohonan kami kabulkanlah dan mudahkanlah. Rabbana atina min ladunka rahmah wa hayyi lana min amrina rasada. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Mujiansah, who has recited prayer. May Allah bless us. Amin. Next, we will sing together the anthem of Indonesia Raya, March State University of Jakarta, and Hymn State University of Jakarta. Ladies and gentlemen in the Zoom, please expect it to be respectful, and in this room, please stand up. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit down. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is speech. First speech will be delivered by the Educational Doctoral Study Program and Education Evaluation at the State University of Jakarta. Please welcome Professor Dr. Awaludin Chala. Time is yours.
Thank you, Professor Barbara. Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning, everyone in this room. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings to all of us whom I respect, Professor Dr. Deddy Purwana, M.Bas, Postgraduate Director of UNJ, Professor Dr. Wardani Rahayu, Deputy Director for Academic Affairs, Professor Japar, Deputy Director for Administration and Finance, UNJ Postgraduate Study Program Coordinators, UNJ lecturers and professors who took part in this webinar, the Honorable Mr. Gogot Suarwoto, PhD, education and culture at the sea at the Indonesian Embassy in Seoul, Professor Bahrul Hayat, PhD, Deputy Chancellor for Academic Affairs at the International Islamic University of Indonesia, and chairperson of the Indonesian Education Evaluation Association, it's AEPI. Professor Barbara Jurgens, PhD, Institute for Pedagogy Psychology, Universitat Braunschweig, and ladies and gentlemen who are participants in the international, both in the room seminar and online. The webinar activity conducted by the Education Research and Evaluation Study Program today with the theme Overview Assessment on Teaching and Learning Process in Higher Education. Lesson learned from Germany, from Barbara, Professor Barbara, I think. South Korea, Dr. Gogot, and Indonesia, Professor Bahrul Hayat, aims to gain an in-depth understanding of how assessment is applied to teaching and learning process activities at the higher education level in the 3 countries. We can get a lot of information from the knowledge and experience of the 3 speakers regarding the application of the latest assessment in the teaching and learning process in universities from the 3 countries. I think Professor Barbara, according to her competencies and extensive experience, will provide an understanding of the implementation of the assessment on teaching and learning process carried out at universities in Germany. Professor Bahrul Hayat, PhD, will provide an overview of how the assessment on teaching and learning process is implemented in Indonesia as well as. And Mr. Gogot Suharboto, PhD, according to his current expertise, and that is as educational attaché in South Korea, will provide an overview of the assessment on teaching and learning process at the higher education level in South Korea. Therefore, we hope that with the extensive experience and knowledge of the 3 webinar speakers, you will be able to benefit from this activity. The committee, thank you very much. And thank you for presence of ladies and gentlemen who took part in this activity in hybrid manner. The Education Research and Evaluation Study Program, congratulations you on joining this webinar this morning. As a scientific space to carry out discussion, and share knowledge in the field of educational research and evaluation. Hopefully, many benefits can be attached from this webinar activity. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Mr. Awaluddin Chala. And then the next speech from the Vice Director of the State University of Jakarta, Professor Dr. Japar, and officially opening the webinar. Time is yours. Professor Japar, please give the speech. Okay, we will continue. The next agenda is the main agenda. The webinar overview assessment on teaching and learning process in higher education, lesson learned from Germany, South Korea, and Indonesia, of course. And then the speaker for this webinar, Mr. Gogot Suharwoto, PhD, and Mr. Robert Mi Jumpakitapinem, SAB, MBA, Professor Barbara Hurchen, PhD, and then Professor Bahlul Hayat, PhD. And the webinar will be guided by two moderators. Please welcome to Mr. Stephanus and Mrs. Kinkin Suwartini. Time is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning. May I have your attention, please? Our panel session of this webinar is going to begin. Thank you very much for preparing yourself to join our webinar. Welcome to our international webinar. This is the international webinar held by Postgraduate Program, Jakarta State University.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, salam sejahtera sekalian, Om Swastiastu, Budaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I to greet the respectable Mr. Professor Dr. Dedi Purwana Bas, Director of Postgraduate Jakarta State University. The respectable Mr. Professor Dr. Awaluddin Chala, PD, Head of Doctorate Educational Research and Evaluation Study Program, Jakarta State University. And I'd like to greet the Honorable Mrs. Professor Dr. Barbara Jurgens, from Institute for Pegawai Psychology and State Brunswick. Good morning, Professor. How are you doing, Professor? And the next is the Honorable Mr. Professor Bahlul Hayat, PhD, from Universitas Islam Indonesia, International Indonesia. Good morning, Prof. How are you doing, Prof? And the next is the Honorable Mr. Gogot Suharwoto, PhD, from Education and Culture Attaché at Indonesia Embassy at Seoul. Good morning, sir. How are you doing today? And also the Honorable all participants of this international webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Stephanus Timonora Mayaranto.
And my name is Kinkin Suwartini.
And we are going to be the moderator of this webinar today. I'm very pleased and honored to be here and welcome all of you to this webinar with the topic Assessment on Teaching and Learning Process in Higher Education. Lesson learned from Indonesia, Germany, and Korea. South Korea.
And for information, our audiences are from faculties, researchers, and students, also from postgraduate. So quite various background.
Well, before we begin our presentation session, I have a few housekeeping notes, and I'm going to read the further rules. First, for presentation session, till the next 1 hour, 30 minutes, and each speaker will have 30 minutes for their presentation. And second, question and answer session. We will have about 45 minutes. For the participants, if you have any questions for the speakers, please raise your hands and say your question. And the third, conclusion.
Talk about assessment. Assessment is critical aspect of the teaching and learning process in higher education. Teaching and learning practices in higher education are undergoing a number of changes that have significant implications for the nature of students' learning experience. There is a growing call for active learning experiences that place the student at the center of learning rather than accepting students as passive listeners. To ensure teaching and learning continuity, higher education institutions have to migrate to flexible teaching and learning modality, recalibrate the curriculum, capacitate the faculty, upgrade and infrastructure, implement a strategic plan, and assess all aspects of the plan. And my university, as one of the big universities in Indonesia, want to give a positive contribution for that through this international webinar. And for that, we have 3 speakers who are ready with us. We have Professor Dr. Barbara Jargons, Professor Bahrul Hayat, PhD, and Mr. Gogot Suarwoto, PhD.
Ladies and gentlemen, moving along to our presentation session, we get to the first speaker. Please welcome the Honorable Mr. Gogot Suarwoto, PhD, who represented by Mr. Robertmi Chumpakita Pinam, SAB MBA, lecturer at Department of Business Administration, Diponegoro University, Indonesia. I'm going to read his profile first. Mr. Robertmi Chumpakita Pinam, SAB MBA, is the lecturer at Department of Business Administration at Diponegoro University, Indonesia. He is a PhD student at the Department of International Trade, Gangwon National University, South Korea. Master of Business Administration at National Taiwan University of Science and Technology, Taipei, Taiwan, and Bachelor of Business Administration, Faculty of Social and Political Science, Sumatera Utara University, Medan, Indonesia. Research interest is green and digital marketing, international business, entrepreneurship, and etc. Mr. Robertmi Chumpakita Pinam, SAB MBA, kindly please, it's your time to present your presentation, and you have 30 minutes.
Good morning, Pak. Good morning, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. 안녕하세요. 저는 Gogot Suarwoto Inunda, 저는 Joan Indonesia Disakuan, 기억이 부담입니다. 만나서 반갑습니다. My name is Gogot Suarwoto. I'm the Education Attaché and the Indonesian Embassy in Seoul. So I will provide the introduction, and then the presentation will be continued by Mas Robertmi. Okay, so 3 things I'd like to share with you. One is the assessment comprises, in general, as we all know, when we talk about assessment, there are 3 kinds of assessment. One assessment, normally, in general, we assess our student graduates. So based on the score, based on the competencies, based on any kind of performance that we like to assess. So second assessment is to the university. So this assessment mostly conducted by the government. So in terms of accreditation, so the government provided accreditation. It's the same thing in Korea also. Korea also provided accreditation to university based on several criteria, that will be explained by Mas Robert Mee. Third one is also actually the core of the assessment is basically the teaching and learning process. So if we are discussing about the assessment of the teaching and learning process, mainly we will focusing on the professors or the teachers in the university. So based on that thing, I like to also bring here the usually, we refer every policy on the Education Act. So like in Indonesia, we have National Education System Act. In Korea, also the same. They have Higher Education Act. This Higher Education Act, in this specific article, I like to mention that the school have the authority or but this is a law wording. So schools shall conduct self-inspection and evaluation. Basically, in Korea, okay, university are given the authority, given the choice, the choice to conduct self-inspection and evaluation. In what aspect? In education, in research, and in operation, including facilities, equipment, and curriculum, and relation with the industry, and so on. So this specific evaluation will be conducted by specific institution, and then at the end they will provide accredited institution after they meet certain criteria. This accreditation difference when it comes to medicine, dentistry, and Chinese medicine and nursing. So they will have separate certification process in the government. Secondly, when it's come to specialized evaluation institution, so the government also will conduct certain evaluation. Thirdly, so when the government already conducted accreditation and the university have certain criteria, certain accredited ranking, so then the government can use this accreditation as part of their evaluation to provide grant, to provide research funding, or to provide any kind of assistance to the university. So basically, the university will actually voluntarily, but they will compete, to do a self-evaluation and submit it to the government, to the institution, and will be explained by Mas Robert Mee in the later. One thing I like to, this is the process, accreditation criteria, accreditation process, accredited university, and you will see one by one explained by next presenter. Last thing I like to also mention, when it's come to good teaching and learning process. So I'd like to share with you one study that Korean student, this is conducted in 38 national university in Korea. And they surveyed about 1,340 students, and they distributed, they're using social network analysis, something like that. And they combine it, and what are the 5 terms that refer to good class or good teaching practice. So there are 4 things I like to highlight here. One is, when it comes to teaching and learning, in the mind of student is understanding. And the product and the end process of teaching and learning is understanding. So in a way to understand, students have to receive the communication and feedback. How this communication and feedback can be received by students? Through learning material that is fun and interesting. So this is one thing. So assessing teaching and learning process in the classroom basically is measuring the student understanding. And secondly, what is good teaching practices? A good professor, basically. So it's easy for them when they come to good teaching practices. They mention that for students to understand concept or to understand knowledge, they, of course, they need to be assessed by the level of the difficulties that the assignment or the test being given to the student. So from this, the feedback of assignment and evaluation and fair evaluation become the critical factors of assessing good teaching and learning processes. Last thing, when it comes to when student being asked what kind of courses you will take, the next term, when you are given many choices, all kind of courses, so they will choose that the course that gives the positive attitude in good class. Basically, it refers to the good professor. So by combining these three, assessing teaching and learning process in the classroom basically is how we measure the student understanding. And how we can measure it by using assessment of assignment and evaluation. With a good grade, with a reward, this will come to the positive attitude of a good class. So I think that's the summary of one of the study that I try to present it here. And the next thing will be presented by Mas Robert Mi. Silakan, Mas Robert Mi.
Okay, thank you, Pak Gogot. May I share my PPT? Okay. Okay, it's already show up, right? Okay. Thank you, Pak Gogot, atas pendidikan dan kebudayaan Indonesia untuk Korea Selatan. Thank you for your sharing in the first part, and let me continue to all of participants about the Korean higher education interaction of education system and assessment process. But before I continue, let me introduce myself. Even MC already mentioned before my background. My name is Robert Mi Jumpa Kitapinam. I am PhD student in Kangwon National University, South Korea. But my hometown is Tanah Karo, Sumatera Utara, and I'm lecturer in the Universitas Diponegoro, Semarang. And then before I continue my presentations about the assessment and learning process in the class, I will, this is my duty also, because I'm the HIT scholarship awardee, it's also my duty to share a little bit about the Korea. So my presentation today, I will try divide to four parts. First, about introduction about the Korea, and then later on, I will try to about the student assessment, professor assessment, and also university assessment. Okay. By the way, before I continue, I will try to give like a brief introduction about South Korea, and then I want to say thank you to Pak Gogot and also annyeonghaseyo to all of participants in this room. Okay. A little bit about the South Korea. As we know, it's like many people when we mention about South Korea, even when I say it's like I'm studying South Korea, many people say, how about North Korea and etc. It's like sometimes a joke and etc. But I just let you know, Korea is one of good countries so far. I visit. I also studied for master degree MBA program in Taiwan before. But these two countries, they have like their own strength each other. So Korea is one of the I can say it's like a developed country in East Asia. They have like a quite good level of education, it's the quality of the education and another facilities if I compare with any countries. And then about the South Korea, it's one of the top performing countries if we compare in the general about the reading literacy, mathematics, science, and average student around the world. Yeah, with Japan, China, and any countries. So I guess it's like competitiveness in South Korea is just one of the highest one around the world. And also, according to the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, number of scholarship for foreign students is like quite high. Now, more than 100 students for foreign student who's studying in Korea is like more than 100 students. For instance, this why I put my photos in the right side on my slide. This is at least we have like many kinds of scholarship. For me, it's like a HIT scholarship already. My friends is the most popular global Korean scholarship or GKS scholarship, and also they also have like a sister city scholarship. So it's just like Korea is like a very welcome and many scholarship. And then here's like what I was proud to be Koreans. I say it's like Korea is home of the international students. Is they have like 4 seasons. So if you say you see in the slide, there's a spring, summer, fall, and also winter seasons. This is what you can enjoy if you visit Korea or if you are studying in Korea. Yeah, maybe I hope everybody in this room you have chance to be visit Korea in the near future. Okay, here's about the higher education institution. We move to the little bit a series one. Okay, in Korea they have like a 426 institutions for the university level, university of education, junior university, and any polytechnic and etc. If we take a look, there's any 190 of the university and also 134 junior university and also another type of the university like University of Education in Korea. In total, it's like so far until 2021, it's like 426 university. Because maybe if you take a look to some of the number in these graphs, maybe you see a decrease of the number. For instance, my university, they merged from the 2 universities. So before it's like Kangwon National University merged with the Chuseok University. So it's like a 2 university they merged together. So maybe some number they decrease, but actually because some university they merged their university. Okay. This is also a case what I want to share to you participants today, because it's quite interesting when I visit KAIST. KAIST is one of the top university in South Korea, and then they have like a senior high school. Yeah, when I visit KAIST, I met some senior high school student. Wow, they're quite great. This is why I saw in this part I want to share to you. Maybe you have like any family and etc. Before I move to another one, this is some kind of the requirement to, or admission or the way how to enter school in Korea. Yeah, I mean high or university or maybe any kind of the university in Korea by CSAT. This is the normal one, and also transcript, what we call also Indonesia by without test. Yeah. And also university examinations, but the most popular one is CSAT. Also, how they have their own tests, like our paper-based tests. What is the we did in Indonesia also. So mostly Korea, Indonesia for the admissions way or to enter university is similar one each other, and also one of the most serious one in South Korea. Everything's like they take seriously, especially for the entering university. Yeah, if you hear maybe some of the information for the from the social media or maybe any news in South Korea during exam to I mean it's like a exam for the entering university, they will take seriously. For instance, many people says like they will stop maybe for 40 minutes for the airport activities, even maybe transportation system, if any transportation close to the university, they will stop for a while. Because for instance, I remember I get email for my, because my university, we have senior high school. And then because they have this kind of, test, admission for the university, they not allow any student, especially me and my friends who stay in the dormitory, they are not allow us to pass from normal way. We cannot because they have exam. This is why what I mess with the Korean governments. They really I can say it's like respect to the who's because if we enter university, this we can say it's like it's about our life in the future, right? If you go to the high level university, this means you can get better life and etc. in the future. So this is why they take seriously about the exam enter university. Okay, for foreign student in South Korea, it's also one of the good news for the foreigner students. If we take a look for the number, each year, as what I mentioned in the beginner, it's like more than 100,000 students who's studying in South Korea, foreign student. But if you take a look, 2019, 2021, it's maybe the number is decreased. because of COVID-19. Because I remember before I come to Korea for studying, some of our students cannot, especially exchange program, they cannot come to Korea because of COVID-19. Maybe this is one way why number of the foreign student in South Korea from 2019 decreased to 2020 and 2021. Yeah, this is quite a big number. Around 7,000 foreign students they decrease every year because of COVID-19. So, yeah, so I remember our students already get LOA from the high university here or university in South Korea, but they cannot enter Korea because of COVID-19. This is another reasons why the number in foreign students in South Korea is decrease year by year, at least until 2021. Okay, I moved to the assessment for teaching process, especially for students. Yeah, based on my experience in my university, mostly is same case with the what I did in Taiwan before, what I did during my study in Universitas Sumatera Utara Medan, and also what I did in Universitas Diponegoro Semarang as the lecturer. Yeah, mostly what we material or indicator for the grading is like participation, assignment, mid-test, and final test. But one thing I can say is like Korea is more tough than any country so far or I visit is about the grade. If you take a look to my table here, he's like a host Korea, especially my university. They use like A+, A minus, B plus, B minus, and until F fail. If you take a look, can you see? I don't know how about the UNJ standard, but I mean, if I compare to Undip and Universitas Sumatera Utara, even when I'm studying in National Taiwan University, to get A or A plus is not like this kind of score number. Yeah, I mean, it's like lower. Can you imagine? So to get A plus, you have to get score 95 until 100 score. It's like quite tough, right? If you compare to Indonesia, I don't know in UNJ. Any volunteers you can say like to get A or A plus in UNJ, how many scores you have to achieve? Any volunteer to get A, how many scores you have to achieve? I think in Undip it's around 80 you already get A. Yeah, but I don't know in UNJ, but I mean in Taiwan also before 85 you already get A actually. But I mean, in Korea, if for the assessment for the teaching process, this is what I said, like when first time I visited here, wow. Yeah, but so far, my score is still good. Yeah, A plus and A. But I mean, like the number of score for the grade is like quite tough. Yeah, if you take a look here, my university used this standard, 4.5 for the A plus, but you have to achieve 95 until 100, and also to get A or A0 is like a 4, it's like a 90 until 94. This means like you must be outstanding in the class to get A or A plus score or grade. Yeah, if you take a look here, so if you compare to Indonesia, I think the Korean standard this is higher than us, right? Yeah. The second one, about assessment for the teaching process for professors. Yeah. In Korea also, we cannot, as a student, we cannot take a look or we cannot check our grade or GPA if without or maybe I can say like student required to provide assessment to learning process in the class. We have to evaluate our professors if we want to take a look our scores later on. Yeah, at least there's only 3 assessment indicator for the professors. One is material. Is interesting or not, is useful or not, it's like on the based on the syllabus or not. And the next one is interaction of process in the class, include also class management. This is what I screenshot from my university website. There's any limitations to evaluate for the professor. So each professor, I try to delete my courses and also because there's any my professor's name. But in Taiwan, we have to do both. I think Indonesia also, Indonesian system also in Undip before, the student also need to evaluate the professors or lecturers in the class about the materials, about the interaction in the class, and later on deliver or maybe distribute to the lecturers so they can evaluate also themselves and also maybe they evaluate by management. Yeah, because as I say it also in Taiwan also they take it seriously. So yeah, evaluation or assessment between professors and students they did in both sides, so not only students by grading. Okay, now how about the university assessment? Before I already talk about the student assessment, and the next or the second ones I talk about the professor's assessment. Now we move to the university assessment, or maybe mostly we what we call like accreditation. Yeah. For first part, there's no differences between structure of Korean education system with Indonesian. Yeah, but one of the most popular one in Korea so far, what I amassed from East Asian country, China, Taiwan, and also Korea. So many doctor degree in Korea, even in Indonesia, of course. If mostly if they already doctor, this mean mostly of them must be lecturer or professor in university, right? Or maybe any higher educations, or maybe any institution. But in East Asian country, even they are maybe just professional worker, many of them they reach until their education until doctor. Yeah, many, my wife lab mate, also my friends in my university also, they don't know, they just want to be professional worker later on, but they reach until doctor degree. Yeah, this also why is Asian country they can become like I can say it's like a developed country, because they aware, then they also they're aware about the education. Even they're just a professional worker, they study until doctor degree. Yeah, and this is what I said before. It's quite popular in Korea. Is if you saw my cursor here, my mouse, what we call like combination. Yeah, master and doctor degree around 4 years. Yeah, combination. In Indonesia maybe we call like PMDSU. Yeah, program master doktor unggul. Yeah, PMDSU. Indonesia. Maybe in also you have that kind of program, but I mean, this is one of the popular one in South Korea, because they like to do research. After they finish the undergraduate, they move to the master degree. After master degree, they join with combined program with doctor. So yeah, they so many students here, they pass their doctoral degree in early age or very young. Yeah, if I take a look to Indonesia, if I make comparison, it's like not apple to apple. If I take a look to the PhD degree students, or maybe mostly of us, I can say it's like already in the reach any, I feel like more age than Korean if I compare on the age comparisons. Yeah. If we move to the Korean University Accredited Institute, this under of the Korean Council for Education, University Education, or Indonesia, what we call Dirjen Perguruan Tinggi. So here's like how the Korean Council for University Education, they will divide to the two part, like a Korean University Accredited Institute and also Institute Accreditation Committee. So they did like accreditation planning team. They did like a university assessment and supporting team, and also the another part they have also administrative committee who do like evaluation, monitoring the committee. It include also how about the accreditations, monitoring, and etc. So later on, in the next slide, I will show you how's the Korean processes about the accreditation or assessment for the university. In these all processes, mostly similar with Indonesian. Yeah, for instance, they will announce, and then for the university side here, they will do like accreditation applications, what we did also in Indonesia, and then later on they will try to do like a accreditation process from the Korean accreditation institution, and they try to writing self-assessment report like what they did in Indonesia, and then later on after they do self-assessment and they complete all documents, they will try to the submission self-assessment report, and then later on they will try to they will send to the, let me move this part. Okay, after that they will back again to Korean's accreditation team, and then they try to do like off-site documentary review, or include also on-site visits. What this same case with what we did in Indonesia also, and then later on they will result verifications how what they did in the campus activities, and based on the indicator later on next slide I will search you include also assessment report, and then later on the last one they will publish on the website, what Pak Gogot already mentioned also in the beginning. So for all of this process, mostly similar with Indonesian process. Okay, so so what is the criteria for the do evaluation for the university? There's any 6 criteria for the key evaluation criteria, and later on they break down to 5 categories. In Korea, there's some of the key evaluation. For instance, one's like a quota of full-time faculty, number of facilities, number of student enrollment rate, retention rate, ratio education expenditure to tuition, and ratio of scholarship. And then they break down to 5 categories. Here they are. Okay, let me move this first. Okay, in 5 categories, what I mentioned before, first is mission and management. This will be breakdown to management and finance area, and then they break down again to criteria, the education subject, development plan, and specialization, self-review. In financial also financial resource, it's like close to Indonesian's accreditation process. And also in education, academic program, teaching, learning. Yeah, we can take a look to this table. This is like close to Indonesian. So what we did during assessment in Indonesia include also education personnel, evaluate for the faculty member, include also evaluate to the staff, how the staff recruitment system, staff treatment and welfare, include also staff expertise. Yeah, and then we move to the educational facilities and student support. Yeah, here's also they divide to 2 parts: educational facilities, student support. Yeah, in the education facilities, same with what we did in Indonesia also, like classroom, laboratories, student welfare facilities, libraries, student counseling, on graduation employment support, support for student activities and safety management, and also aid and minority students. Yeah, I believe Indonesia also recently very concerned about the minority students. For instance, like difabel, yeah, in South Korea, if you take a look, they really care. They provide any space for the parking for who's like get difabel, and also they give also like access by lift. Yeah, it is the same case. In Undip also, if I compare with the Undip, they also quite good. Yeah. In especially PSIP in Undip, if you compare with Korea, yeah, this is both sides is quite good. Yeah, they provide like the kind of parking for the difabels. They also give like a lift to access to the class. So if they use their wheelchair, yeah, it is they can access by themselves without any help by someone. So it's like quite of the good in East Asian country. If I compare also not only Korea but also Taiwan. Yeah, when I'm studying, so it's like for this aid to especially for the special need students, they really care and provided what they need. And also achievement and social responsibility. Yeah, he's like for sure Indonesia. So we are really concerned about research performance, educational achievement for the student, also what national level, international level, etc. Include also community service policies, community service, and one of the in Taiwan is like social responsibilities about community service policies, community, include also scholarship. How many percentage they give to the international student for the scholarship, not only international but also local student. Okay. Okay. For the this is also one of the most important thing, institution accreditation stages. So after we moved before from the category or categories of the accreditations, they already get the score. For instance, they already get the score for 5 categories. Here's the ranks. Yeah. Here's the result. I can say the result. If there are 5 categories, what I saw in Okay, it's like something problem, I guess. Okay, from these categories 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if 5 of categories satisfied, they will be okay with the accreditations. This mean they have like 5 years. Same case with Indonesia. They are 5 years accredited by the Korean Accreditation Institution. If 4 evaluation satisfied and 1 category weak, yeah, this mean they need accredited in 2 years later on. So they have to do like a reaccreditation in 2 years. Yeah, if 4 categories, 1 is fail, yeah, but before it's weak, right? 1 is fail, or 3 categories satisfied, but 2 categories weak, they also need re-evaluations within 2 years. Yeah, but in the second one,
Pardon me,
improvement.
sir. 3 minutes left.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
thank you.
almost finished. And the last one, if you are not satisfied with any categories from 5 categories, this means you need to apply again in 2 years later on. So this is like a kind of the after 5 categories, they apply to this one, and then your university belongs to which one. It's like if you get the all categories, this means you are 5 years accredited. If no, if you need to 2 years professional accreditations, you need to re-evaluate in 1 after 1 years. But if you are failed 2, you need to improve in 2 years. And if not, if all of the categories are failed, you need to reapply in 2 years. Yeah. Here's the accredited website. If you go to the kcoe.or.kr, this is the website of the accreditation institution in Korea. You can take a look all of the university here. So okay, for instance, Yongji Aja University. Oh, when is the accreditations expired, and etc. All of the university. If you go to this part, accredited university, yeah, you will take a look. So before if you want also take a look, if you want make a MOU with the Korean university and you want take a look which one is accredited, which one is not, you also go to this website. So as the final statement for me, because time also done, but this is what I was like for most, like each assessment is needed to ensure education quality standard. So I believe like every of us, maybe you get stressed during assessment, especially during accreditation in Indonesia. We get stressed. We all of a team member, we need to hand by hands to help one each other. Yeah, this is to ensure education's quality standard, to show, or it's also one of the, we can say like the evidence, our standard, institution standard is like a risk what government give to any higher education. That's all for me. Kamsahamnida. Thank you for the time and also chance to be sharing with you guys. Yeah, thank you. I give back to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gagot Suarwoto, PhD, and Mr. Robert Chubakitapinem, SAB MBA, for that excellent presentation. That we can conclude that education in South Korea is more, if I can quote with Mr. Robert Mi, is the grade is quite tough, A+ with the GPA 4.5. It is the difference between the Indonesia and South Korea. For the highest GPA in Indonesia, it's 4.0, but in South Korea 4.5. And then similar process with Indonesia, especially on assessment. And assessment divide to 3 parts: assessment on student, assessment on teaching, especially for professor, and assessment for university. It calls accreditation. Thank you very much, Mr. Robert Chubakitapinem, for the excellent presentation.
For the second speaker, I am going to invite the Honorable Mr. Professor Bahrul Hayat, PhD. I am going to read his profile first. Bahrul Hayat PhD is Vice Rector for Academic Student Affairs and Human Resource UEE. He got his PhD from the University of Chicago, specializing in psychometrics and statistical analysis. His MA was from the University of Pittsburgh, and his first degree was from the Bandung Institute of Teacher Training and Education, now Education University of Indonesia, Bandung. He teaches classical and modern psychometric theory, the construction of psychological instrument, and psychological research methodology. He is a former Secretary General of the Ministry of Religious Affairs. He has held various positions in the Ministry of Education and Culture, including as Director of the Center for Educational Assessment, Secretary of Directorate General for Teacher and Education Personnel, and Secretary of the Nation Board of School Accreditation. He is now an education advisor to the Innovation for Indonesian School Children Inovasi Program, a partnership between the governments of Indonesia and Australia, and also an Islamic education advisor to DVAT's Pathways Program in the Philippines, Education Pathways for Peace in Mindanao, where he is advising the new autonomous Bangsamoro government on regulating the education sector. He can be reached by email at bahrul.hayat@ueeacia. About research interests, his interest, an expert in psychometrics, statistical meta-analysis, and educational and psychological assessment. For Mr. Professor Bahrul Hayat PhD, kindly please, it's your time to present a presentation and you have 30 minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Professor Bahrul Hayat PhD.
Thank you, Ibu Kinkin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
So the first one, my fellow speaker, Pak Gogot. Hello, Pak Gogot. Nice to see you in this Zoom. And also later on, Professor Barbara, my colleague from UNG, Universitas Negeri Jakarta, Director of the Graduate School, Head of the Study Programs, and all the faculty members, my fellow participant of the webinar. Thank you first of all for the invitation to be part of this international webinar. And please let me share the presentation. Ibu bisa di-share ya. Yeah, let's see. Bisa dilihat ya, Bu. You can see the slide, but I try to make in a full. Let's check. I have a problem how to make in the full presentation, but Ibu, can I begin with this slide? And first of all, I want to make the distinction of the topic that I want to share. The title for my presentation is Assessment of Teaching and Learning Process in Higher Ed, Lesson Learned from Indonesia. And I try to limit my presentation on the learning or student assessment. There are two terminology in the world of education, and especially in the area of educational assessment. The first one, if we focus on learning outcome, internationally, in practice or in theory, expert and practitioner use the word student assessment, learning assessment, or sometimes student learning assessment. So this is the area that I'm talking this morning. I'm talking about the assessment of learning outcome. There is another area of the title which is related to the teaching. Teaching assessment, or sometimes we call course evaluation. This is focusing on the effectiveness and the quality of instruction. So by giving this title, I just want to limit to the left side, which is related to the learning outcome assessment. It's not about the course evaluation, it's not about the selection system to the university, or it is not about the program or institutional accreditation. So the second one, we have to see in the context of Indonesia and also in the world, what is the nature of learning in higher ed? Which is, we understand, quite different from the learning process at the lower level, the primary and secondary education system. Learning at higher education consists of independent and sometimes serial courses the student must complete within a certain period of time. We know there is a period of time that the students should complete, otherwise they can be dropped out from the university. So unlike the system at the primary and secondary education, we give the period of time that the student should complete, but they have to take a series of courses. A course, as we understand, is a unit of teaching learning process that typically lasts one academic semester. So it's independent per semester, independent by subject, and sometimes led by one or probably more lecturer or faculty members. The accumulation of courses is required to complete an academic program and or degree. For example, at least 145 probably hours, what you call credit system, to be completed for the undergraduate degree, or probably almost 36 credit for master degree and so on. So we have to accumulate all these courses to get a certain degree from the university. And quite different also from primary and secondary education, lecturer or faculty member has the autonomy, which is a freedom to design and implement the learning program. And of course, to assess the student learning achievement. There is a regulation from the ministry, in this context now Ministry of Education, Culture, Higher Education and Technology, and Research and Technology. But again, the autonomy of how to teach and how to assess is at the hand of the lecturer or faculty member. So it's given more freedom for them to design the program and assess the learning achievement of the students. That's just, I think, quite different of the literature and practice of assessment in the context of primary and secondary educations. So given this nature of learning in the context of higher ed, which is quite universal across all universities in the world, then I try to define what we mean by learning assessment in the context of higher ed. Learning assessment is the process of collecting, recording, processing, interpreting, and communicating information to monitor learning progress. And the most importantly is to make decisions about the student learning achievement. So we have to design at the end of the course about the achievement of the student learning outcome. The learning assessment is carried out to look for evidence. So we need evidence. So it's not just giving the grade, but assessment is the way we try to find evidence on how well students have accomplished learning objective. That is why we give the grade education system. Why learning assessment in higher ed in general in educational process? Assessment is always part of any educational process. Formally or informally, we need any kind of assessment. And assessment play a vital role in higher education, and robust assessment process are critical for a rigorous evaluation of student learning. So what we assess will reflect the quality of the students. I always remind you that this the vital role of learning assessment is written also from the very beginning of the conception of the curriculum theory and instructional principle by Ralph Tyler. So when we have between quote a design of an educational system, at whatever level, the classroom, at the district, or whatever, we begin with educational purpose and then define what kind of experience, organize this experience, and then at the end we have to evaluate or assess the experience. In the latest context, we use the term learning outcome. Once we have this concept, we have to remember any kind of assessment. Once we define the learning outcome to assess, the next question again is the evidence. The evidence of what kind of learning outcome to make sure that we can decide the achievement of the student based on this evidence. And then the next question is, what is the methodology? What is the technique? The assessment technique will be chosen in line with the evidence we want to achieve, and then the outcome to assess, to be assessed. So that's what I usually call assessment triangle. Using this one, then make sure that in the context of Indonesia, parallel with what happened in the world in the last 70 years, we have the paradigm shift of education and assessment. So our system in Indonesia, if we look at from the 1975 until now, we have paradigm shift of education that also reflected in the assessment system. We have the objective-based education system from, I think, formally in 1975 until our secondary and primary school curriculum into 1997, and then we changed in 2000 curriculum, for example, for primary and secondary education to competency-based, and then now to outcome-based. But competency and outcome-based are still the same, what they call standard-based educations. At the university, what happened is also follow this kind of paradigm shift. So before 2003, we used what we call objective-based, and then 2003 with the curriculum and all the system referring to our education law, we have the exit competency, course competency, content standard, process assessment standard. There are 8 standards that we have to meet, and then right now, especially for primary and secondary, we have the new curriculum, but at the higher ed, we are now familiar with the word outcome-based education. Lecturer and faculty member and all university administrator understand now the word outcome-based education in higher ed, including, of course, in the technical term, we now use the program learning outcome. So the learning outcome at 2 levels. The first one is program learning outcome, and then the second one is at the course learning outcome. So what we want to assess is these two. All university in Indonesia right now focusing on how we assess the course learning outcome by the lecturer and faculty members, and then program learning outcome under the leadership of the study program or faculty or school. So this is the framework now I think we use in Indonesia in the context of learning assessment in higher education. if we move why and what are the outcome-based education? Outcome-based education is an education system and all education subsystem are directed toward the achievement of the learning outcome. So either at the program level or level. The student ideally take up courses with a certain goal knowledge and skills. Most they have to complete the learning goal by the end of the course. Ideally, students are given freedom and flexibility, like in the Campus Merdeka, and the lecturer guide the student based on the target of learning outcome. So that's the concept of outcome-based education. We also understand outcome-based education, the process is not merely transferring knowledge or skill. It is comprehensive approach to the achievement of the holistic outcomes, student-centric learning approach, and then multifaceted learning domain, knowledge, skill, and non-cognitive. And then teaching the course at the university beyond the classroom with our technical situation. I think the ministry's policy give us the autonomy to the campus to share with other universities. So students can go to other university as far as it is relevant with the curriculum. Student develop essential skill, and then there are two what we call methodology or approach. Case and project-based learning now is suggested or recommended to be applied and implemented at the university. And this will affect the assessment system at the university in Indonesia. Students take responsibility and accountability for achieving their learning goals. What is a case? I think you understand all. It is a perfect situation reflecting multi-layer real life problem. That's the hardest part. And then why this method is recommended to be implemented at the higher education, because it encourages critical and reflective thinking, student engagement, constructing knowledge, deeper learning, building interpersonal skill, and building communication skill. And also the policy encourage university and professors, lecturers to implement project-based learning. It is inquiry-based instructional methodology, and especially we have to use our authentic experience the learning process, analytical thinking. So this the reason why the outcome-based education recommend case and project-based learning for higher ed, and this will have the implication for the assessment system at Indonesian higher education system. So based on this perspective, here is my spectrum of learning assessment in Indonesian higher education. So again, we have the course learning outcome at the course level or CELO. So we are focusing on how to assess the course learning outcome, either mandatory or elective course. Almost all university in Indonesia has the same framework based on the regulation from the ministry. We have to give the student and ask them to take mandatory courses, but at the same time, we also give them freedom to have the elective courses. So the assessment at the course learning outcome is very critical. And the next level in the context of Indonesia, unlike some of European countries and Australia, for example, we have degree qualifying exam and portfolio. Probably you understand there are some ujian komprehensif or kualifikasi. There are some portfolio requirement for you to fulfill before you work on the thesis and dissertation writing and defense hearing or defense exam. So these two activities or area are under what we call assessment of the program learning outcome. So if you ask me what are the learning assessment at the university, you have to make sure that there are two layers. A layer at the course learning outcome by individual lecturers, and then there is assessment of program learning outcome, usually led by the head of the study program, the faculty, or the school, sometimes by the university. So when we are talking about learning assessment at the higher ed in the context of Indonesia, like now we are focusing in these two. It's not like again in some Western universities or including Australian university. There are more simple system, especially for the assessment of the PLO, but we have a very strict system. This mostly related or reflected mirroring the American education system. So if we look at this, our questions about what kind of learning assessment in Indonesian higher education, on the left side, it is at the hand of the lecturer. The study program, the faculty or the school will lead the process of degree qualifying exam, portfolio, thesis, and dissertation. Although the faculty member or the lecturers will be part of this process. But my point is quite different with the primary and secondary education system. We have the accumulated courses on the left hand of this picture. And then we have also the qualifying exam and thesis dissertation at the end. So the Indonesian higher education system has a very strict system how to make sure that the student at the university fulfill all the course requirement and get the minimum grade from the assessment system at the course learning outcome level. And then the second one, once we finish all this course requirement, we also have to have any kind of assessment for degree qualification and thesis and dissertation. This will be a sequential process, and it is the system that we have right now in Indonesia. So by having this system, what are the challenge? It is the lesson that I learned. Probably my understanding does not reflect or to be representative of my colleague. I do not have any formal research for this one, but this is a challenge of the assessment system in the context of Indonesia. The first one, sometimes and most of the lecturer do not always link assessment with the quality teaching. So it's like the assessment is a mandatory, but teaching is another thing that is mandatory for them to do. They view assessment as a practice that signify evaluation and the formation of grade. So making grade, giving a grade to the student is like the end of the assessment. And the lack of assessment feedback to the student jeopardize the usefulness of learning assessment. This is the critical issues. We learned that quite a small number of lecturers who give the assessment feedback to the students. The second issue is the alignment of the assessment at course learning outcome level with program learning outcome level. So how we guarantee that all the again independent or sequential course learning outcome will direct to the achievement of program learning outcome. That's very critical. And the last point, in general, lecturers appear to rely on traditional pen and paper examination to determine the student knowledge and skill achievement. So I think because of many reasons, lecturers rely on the traditional pen and paper examination. I have also some note on the challenging of implementing case-based assessment. Almost all lecturers and faculty members of Indonesian higher education system understand the need for implementing the case-based assessment. But the problem is it takes time. It's not easy to find the right case. Of course, we have also more complicated learning assessment method and will affect the classroom management. So here is the challenge for us in Indonesia, how to implement case-based assessment by the lecturers or faculty members. I have also some note on how what are the challenges for implementing project-based assessment in Indonesia. Project-based assessment asks the student to lead themselves, so coach more rather than instruct more. Instruct should be less, but coach more. Work with the students on a certain project, so we have to be the coach rather than instructing. And then massive project versus manageable project. How big is the project? It's different also across study programs. So it's not easy to define and to have a manageable project, while it's the same time should be also meaningful project. And it's not easy also to find the issues which is relevant to the study program, especially for the doctoral student related also to their research topic for the dissertation. So it's not easy. What is the burning issues in terms of scientific knowledge the student have? So it's not easy. And then another challenge is the progress of the project will depend on the commitment and the speed of both student and teacher. So progress variability will be an issue. And the last one, again, the assessment method will be more complex. So this is what I want to share for this morning. For Indonesia, it is a challenge now. We are moving to outcome-based education. And we want to use this approach also to develop for the teaching and learning, and of course, also to the learning assessment. But again, there are some challenge in front of us, especially for the lecturers and faculty members, and also for the administrator at the universities. How to implement, for example, case and project-based assessment, which is very important for the implementation of the outcome-based education. The second one is how to make sure that we have a unified and integrated design of the assessment at course learning outcome level, consistent with the program learning outcome. So I think that's what I want to share. And my last statement, I quote from Benjamin Franklin, very popular, tell me and I forget. So if you just instruct, easily to forget, and teach me and I remember, and inform me and I learn. So involvement on the outcome-based education is very important, but it is not easy again to assess this outcome-based education. More important than the curriculum in the context of Indonesian higher education is the question of the teaching and assessment method. Not only choose the right method, but the spirit behind the method. If we implement certain method, make sure that the spirit is there. Otherwise, we will not change the system, although we change the methodology without putting the spirit there. I think that's all. Back to you, Bu Kinkin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Professor Bahlul Haq, PhD, for your excellent presentation. So if I can conclude that assessment is an essential part for a part of the educational process and plays a vital role in higher education. And I think this is the same with Korea, but Korea has higher grade score than Indonesia. Right now, Indonesia need to focus assess learning outcomes, and Professor Bahlul Haq has perspective that learning assessment in Indonesia higher education to a spectrum, start from mandatory course, elective course, degree qualifying exam and portfolio, thesis, and dissertation. and the emphasize to assessment of CLO and assessment of PLO.
For the last speaker, I'm going to invite the Honorable Mrs. Professor Dr. Barbara Zirgen. I'm going to read her profile. Professor Dr. Barbara Zirgen, the SES expert, has many years of experience in teaching and research at universities, specializing in psychology and training of future teachers and psychologists. He has comprehensive knowledge and competence in training university teachers in advanced teaching and assessment methods, also including advanced technologies. In addition, she's familiar with evaluation strategies applied to teaching and assessment. She has experience in basic and advanced training, evaluation of procedural training.
Apa tanggal 22? Oh.
Education management, quality management, and management position. She has already successfully applied her experience, skills, and competence in numerous SES assignments. She is therefore particularly well qualified for this assignment. Competence in he has so many competence and experience, especially in teaching and assessment method, including new technologies. She also has international experience in Mexico, Bolivia, Bangladesh, and Indonesia. Since 2013, she also has 11 successful SES assignments at universities in Mexico, Bolivia, Bangladesh, Kazakhstan, and Indonesia. Psychological issue and advanced training of lecturers. Evaluation and teaching and learning in higher education. So, this is Professor Dr. Barbara Zirgen. Kindly please, it's your time to present your presentation and you have 30 minutes.
Can I have my slides, please?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone in this room and everyone on the screens. I'm very pleased to be invited to this webinar, and I hope I can tell you some things which are a bit helpful for you. How am I going on? Well, our first speaker spoke about education system in general. The second speaker, Mr. Ayani, right?
Barul Hayat.
Hayat, yeah. I always have difficulties with the names. If you don't speak the language, you often mix it up. Well, our second speaker focused on assessment of learning outcomes. And I feel many of the problems he has been talking about are similar in my country, although our education system is different. What am I going to do? Could you please show me the next slide? Yeah, stop. I'm giving you an introduction, talking a little bit about the German background on higher education. After that, I will talk about goals or outcome. Speaker before me already showed you it is very important. Then I will give you a guideline what to think about when you want to assess teaching outcomes. I will show you some special assessment methods. And finally, I will tell you how do we assess teaching. All those aspects, of course, will be rather short, but I hope I will give you an idea. Well, introduction. To understand German system of higher education, you have to know 3 very important facts. First fact, it is written down in our constitution that there is freedom of teaching and research at universities. That is, government is not allowed to control very closely what is happening on universities. Government can give general guidelines, can make general laws, but they are not allowed to look into the teacher, into the teaching of a single teacher or anything like that. That's in the sovereignty of the universities. Second aspect, which is important to understand Germany, we have 17 states, and the states are sovereigns concerning all aspects of teaching and learning. So we have one committee. In this committee, every state is sending a person, and they try to find common rules, common recommendations, common laws. But the policy of even also of higher education is done by the states. That's concerning the background. And one other aspect, only in the last years of the last century and beginning years of this century, we changed our study programs in a very radical manner. Until then, we had one-track programs which finished with a diploma or magister. Those programs only had one intermediate exam and one final exam. The students were supposed to visit lessons, graded lessons, a certain amount of graded lessons, to be allowed to do the intermediate exam or the final exam. But the grades of this they took in those lessons were not important for the final exam. Only they had to pass. If there was our grades are going from 1, which is the best one, to 5, which is failing. And if you got a 4, it's all right. It was not important for the exam. And what students did is very often have a very nice leisure time during their studies. And then in the end, for the intermediate exam and the final exam, they worked very hard. So, and of course, much of this hard working was learning things by heart, because you can do this very quickly. Understanding things takes some more time. So when we changed our study programs, we followed the Bologna process, which meant we left those one-track programs, we changed to bachelor and master programs. And what was much more important for our country, we changed from only 2 exams to grading lessons which counted for the final grade. And that was really new for us. And I did the change at my universities, and my colleagues had many difficulties in changing the programs. To show you what is freedom of teaching and learning in our country, the programs, the new programs were not made by government, they were made by the universities. We, as the professors, we decided how our programs should look like, what should be the contents of our programs. And we only had to look at some general guidelines of the government. But nevertheless, the change was very, very radical. We were used only to think about what we wanted to put into the programs. We didn't think of the students. And suddenly we had to think, what competences shall our students show after they had this or that lesson? What competences shall they show when they have finished our program? Because we were supposed to, what we never did before, to write down what the students were expected to learn by our teaching. Our new programs were structured by modules, which consisted usually with at least 2 lessons or a lesson and a laboratory or something like that, mostly more. And they were supposed to have, very often there was 1 final exam, sometimes also there were more final exams. Can I have the next slide, please? This next slide. Well, look at this. We have a lesson and we have a final exam, and this lesson is the module. We had to, mostly we don't have that. What we have is a lesson with some kind of formative evaluation during the semester and a final exam. That was the beginning of our changing process. After some time, we found out if we are doing an exam after each lesson, it's such a big job for the professors. They have to do the assessments, and it is a too big job for the students. They have too many assessments in a study year. So we changed. Would you show please the next one? We did like this. We did mostly the lower thing. We put together lessons and we made only 1 assessment. And sometimes they had to do some small achievements during the lessons, and that all was put together into 1 achievement. Well, that was the organizational aspect. But also we had to think about contents. And it started some very big discussion on how to do the assessments in the new system, with trying to assess competences and not only content. And so German government started several funding programs to make universities find out new methods, new possibilities to do assessment. That is, if your department was willing to change assessment and they described how they wanted to do this, they had the possibility to get some kind of fee from the government. And that was very good. It made change a little bit faster. So I'm going to show you what they were trying, what were the new kinds of assessment they were thinking about and that they were experimenting with. Next one. Well, just think of this. We have the same system of competences as most countries. It's about competences about knowledge, like understanding, explaining, and things like that. We have competences of attitudes, being able to focus, being able to take work for a long time, things like that. And finally, behavioral, that's very important for the engineering and science subjects. They need something like being able to do things in the laboratory. In my subject, psychology, being able to apply a questionnaire, things like that. So we have all 3 levels of competence, and now how to put this into practice. Next thing. We don't need that. Next thing. Well, what's the strategy? Thank you. First thing, they try to make some general guidelines how to develop a very good kind of assessment. The first aspect, which is very important, you have to think about the kind of assessment you want to do. There's a difference between formative assessment during the semester when you just want to have some kind of feedback, for instance, if your students understood what you told them, if they are able to recollect the contents of the last session or anything like that. You do very small tasks, but you do those tasks rather often during the semester. When you're doing summative assessment, then you want to know whether your students achieved the competences you wanted them to achieve during this lesson. And so your assessment will be bigger, and you will only have one assessment, sometimes two assessments during the semester. Of course, you have to think about the learning strategy your students have to apply during your lesson. It's a difference if you want them to learn by heart. For instance, chemical students have to learn by heart all the terms for the chemical substances. It's nothing about understanding. They have to learn this by heart. On the other side, if you want to want your students to understand a very complicated theory, they have to do some kind of comprehension, of elaborating in order to understand this. So you're expecting your students to do different learning strategies, and your kind of assessment has to match the learning strategies you want your students to use. If you want your students to do comprehension, and in the final exam you're doing some kind of multiple choice, just like with closed questions, that won't work. Multiple choice with closed questions is for recollecting, but it is not for understanding. And therefore you have to match the idea what learning strategies to use, what kind of assessment to implement. Also, of course, you have to think of where is the focus of the competence you're interested in. Are you interested more in knowledge competences? Are you interested more in something like attitude? Or are you interested more on behavioral practical competences? Also, at least in our country, number of students is very important. Our engineering study programs at the beginning, they have like 500 students. So you can't do an interview with 500 students. It's not possible. You would sit for, I think, for a month to do this kind of assessment. So you have to look for other kinds of assessment. Well, of course, you have to think of the piece of content you want to assess. If you do a formative assessment, you have small pieces. If you have a summative assessment, you have big pieces of content. Well, number of assessments, we have been talking about that already. Formative, many. Summative, 1 or 2, no more. Well, and the focus of the assessment also is different. If you do formative, you just have a short glance. You just want to get an impression. What did they learn? What do they recollect? Or something like that. And when you do summative assessments, you want to have an extended idea what are the competences they have learned in my course, in my lesson. So the first very important thing is, where is my focus? Do I want to have some summative idea what did happen in learning with my students, or do I want to have just to have a short look to be sure my course is running the right way? Okay, next one, please. Well, now I'm going to show you some assessment methods they have been experimenting with, and I'm going to tell you what learning strategies are those assessment methods are supporting, and what competences can you look at. Well, multiple choice. I got in general closed questions. I give you an example, very simple. You give the tiger is, and they have to make their mark on the right answer. If you do closed questions, it's very difficult to put questions which make your students do comprehension. Most what you are asking with this kind of assessment is learning processes for recollection, and so it is giving knowledge learned by heart. So, you must know this, otherwise you will be very disappointed when you give a multiple choice test, and when you talk to your students afterwards, you'll find out they didn't understand a word of what you have been teaching. Well, there are other methods of closed questions. Can we have the next one? For instance, arranging items. It's the same. You have to know the content by heart, then you are able to put the countries in the right line. If you didn't learn by heart the number of inhabitants, you are not able to do that. But thinking doesn't help you very much. Well, also the matching tasks and matching exercises are the same. So think of this. It's very difficult to give multiple choice exams to make students understand the subject. And students are very sensitive to assessment methods. They feel, oh, we have a multiple choice, they start learning by heart. There have been has been some research in our country. They have been asking students, what are the most important learning strategies for you? And when they compared the students answering learning by heart with the assessments, it was they mostly had multiple choice assessment. Then they started learning by heart. Next, could we have a look at the next one? Well, so we have to find some different manners. There are many different ways to let them do essays. We love this, especially in the humanities and the social sciences. They can have timed examination. They can have open book examination, which in my eyes is even more helpful. In open timed examination, they get some questions and they have to write down the answer to those questions. They don't know in advance which will be the questions, and very often the exam is for a restricted time, limited in time. Open book examinations, in my eyes, are supporting understanding much more. Students also get questions, but they are allowed to take some material to the classroom, like formula books, like some books about history dates or something else. That is, they can take materials which prevent them from learning by heart in class, and they only have to do the comprehension work in the essay. So for instance, if they do mathematics, they have the formula book, and they have to know which kind of computation to take, but they must not learn by heart the formula. Take home exams are very common in our country. They do it very often. Students are given questions and they are giving some days to do it at home, to look at the papers, to do it in the right manner. And very often it is combined with giving a presentation in class and also sometimes teaching class. So they do the take-home essay, and then they plan a presentation, and they plan doing a short lesson about 20 minutes or something to their co-students on the subject. So in order to be able to do this, they have to understand the subject. You can't teach your co-students if you didn't understand what you're talking about. Perhaps you can do it when you're doing a presentation, but not when you have to teach your co-students. Well, reports very often are used at the end of some activity. For instance, when they have been working in the laboratory, our engineering students, science students, or when they have been doing some field work, they have to write reports. And those reports are different. Sometimes they get a structure, what to write down in the report. In my experience, reports with a given structure are much better than reports, open reports, which leave it to the students how to make the structure. If you make a structure, you can focus on the aspects of understanding, and so students won't just report facts, but they will explain. Please, could you explain? What did you find out? Report shortly. What did you find out? Could you explain your results? And that makes it much easier. How much time do I have left? 3 minutes left. Okay. So perhaps I gave you some impression how we try to improve assessment. And I can tell you these two groups, meanwhile, are spread on German universities. But nevertheless, we have the same problems as speaker before me told. Teachers relying on traditional methods, teachers thinking only about content, not about competences and things like that. I think it will take us another 10 years to be able to do quite a lot of different assessment methods. And last aspect, I want to tell you, how are we assessing teaching? We have this difficulty that we have freedom of teaching. So we can't do any assessment done by government, and we don't have it. What we are doing is giving questionnaires to our students. Could you please show the last slide? Yeah. And those questionnaires are covering several aspects. I gave you the general aspects and I gave you some examples. And we have in every faculty, or sometimes also in each department, a head of teaching. That's a professor who is responsible for all processes concerning teaching. And this professor is getting the results of this inquiries with the students. And we have some system of green, orange, and red line. If a person is above average, no problem. If a person is just below average, the person will get some will get a talk with the head of education, asking, oh, is it by chance, or do you very often have those assessments by your students? And if a person is very low, also this person has to have a talk with the head of teaching, and she's recommended to have some courses. We have centers of higher education didactics. And so the person is recommended to do a course in the center of didactics. That's how we try to balance freedom of teaching and quality of teaching. Okay, that's what I wanted to tell you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Professor Dr. Barbara Jurgens. Thanks for that stunning presentation. And I can conclude that you said that there are three important aspects in higher education in Germany. Freedom of teaching and research at university, sovereignty, that is called sovereignty of university, and second, common rules, implementation of common rules and common recommendation, and then the finally study program is in radical program, changing program that right now is implementing in Germany. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Barbara Jurgens.
Ladies and gentlemen, now come to a question and answer session. I'd like to have 3 questions from participants for the first session. Please use the raise hand feature in the Zoom, then unmute your microphone and open your camera. Yes, okay, for Mr. Sodikin Jakarsi.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I apologize. I want to ask for Professor Bahrul Hayat about the education system in Indonesia. How to carry out student assessment and they stage in independent.
It's not, we can't hear it.
Curriculum.
I'm sorry.
What?
Wait a minute for Mr. Sodikin.
Okay. So repeat again.
Siapa ya? Yang mau presentasi lagi? Waktunya masih lama.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, please. Let's continue, Mr. Sadikin.
For Professor Bahrul Hayat.
Yeah.
How to carry out a student assessment and the stages in the independent curriculum, which is currently being promoted by the Ministry of Education now. Do you always use projects that includes challenge for students, even touch the nature of learning in the independent curriculum is to be heavy and fun? I'm sorry.
Well, he wanted to know that making well, okay. Yes. Well, first aspect, I think they have understood that they have to focus on active learning, on independent learning, also on learning together in groups. But I think they're not very often thinking about making students have fun and learning with fun. They think if students are able to find out they understand the topics, if students have the opportunity to work together, and if students are able to get good feedback from the teacher, they will be intrinsically motivated. But also they have the idea that learning sometimes is hard work.
Yeah, Pak Sodikin, yeah, mungkin may I add some response?
Well,
Yeah.
teaching strategies are, when they are doing good teaching, are thought to make some structure for students and make them able in this structure to work independently.
Thank you for Professor Barbara. And how your opinion, Professor Bahrul Hayat?
Ya, makasih. Thank you, Pak Sodikin. I try to grasp your questions. Bapak, under the curriculum Merdeka, in general, the approach and the methodology of the assessment is the same, but there is a new focus, Pak, a new focus of the curriculum Merdeka related to the first one, the possibility of having diversified learning, or the simple word teach at the right level. So the curriculum guide from the ministry introduced the word initial assessment. Sometimes people call it diagnostic assessment before the teaching process begins. So this assessment is to check the position of the what we call achievement of the competency of the student. Based on this one, the diversified learning will take place. So the implication for the teacher is how to develop what we call adaptive assessment or diversified learning. That's the critical part. It takes time for the teacher to teach in multi-group system and prepare also the multi-adaptive assessment system. I think that's the challenge part. Thank you, Bu Kin Kin.
Will be a hard job, I think.
Thank you, Professor Bahrul Hayat. And for the next question, please raise hand.
Okay, it's very good.
Thank you. Okay, are there any questions? For Mr. Robert Mee.
Yeah,
Yes.
Robert Mee. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Robert Mee.
I saw before one question on the room chat. Yeah. May I answer? Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I noticed before. Yeah.
Yes. From room chat.
Yeah, is in the early questions I saw before. Yeah, I can answer actually because I noted the questions. He asking about the annual test in Korea. Yeah. Okay. May I answer directly, Miss Kikin, Ibu Kikin? Kikin, may I?
Yes.
May I answer directly? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the questions. Actually, the questions about the host the annual test like as Indonesia SNMPTN or maybe another national test in South Korea. Actually, in South Korea, as what I mentioned before, they have like college scholastic ability test or CSAT, or in Korean they call Suno. This they held like annually actually. That's what I said before. They take seriously. Even airport activities they stop for a while. Include also any cars, motorbike cannot pass from the area where they take the test. Especially mostly they take in the school. So this is what I said. Like they take it seriously for that annual test, and helped by what they call like a KIC, Korean Institute Curriculum and Evaluation. Then they have like a annually test, mostly on the Thursday on November every year. Yeah, especially on the another case on the 2020 because of COVID-19. But every year they try to held that kind of annual test for new student candidate in South Korea. They held on the third Thursday on November every year. So this is the answer from about the situation in South Korea. Yeah, we call maybe Indonesia SMPTN and other names. Maybe recently revised by Kemendikbud and etc. But they also have like a annual test like us in Indonesian case. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Robert. And in your presentation, that there is CSAT, requirement for admission. I'm sorry.
Yeah, college scholastic ability test. That's what we call like a SMPTN in Indonesia, or maybe paper-based test. Yeah.
This is unique because there is Chinese characters. Why this content include in that assessment?
Okay, this is mentioned, but this is like a basic, but mostly they just focus in Koreans, mathematics, science, etc. But this is just basic Chinese, maybe because of the Hangul also, what we call it for the Korean character. For the basics from the Chinese actually. Yeah, the Korean character come from the Chinese. So that's why, for your information, for all of us in this room, for Chinese, especially for Chinese, it's easy for them to learn Korean. It's easy for them. Yeah, this also maybe the correlation between that kind of material for the test. Yeah, thank you, Kikin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Robert Miss. And then next question. Please raise hand. Oh, okay. In chat room.
Yeah, I can read from Tita Chris, Brawijaya University. Why we so obsessed with tests? Well, actually, it is not very impact for growing the learners. Maybe Professor Bahrul Hayat can explain about the question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Budita. We obsess probably because we put assessment as something formal outside the learning process. As Ralph Tyler, who is the founders of the theory of instruction and curriculum, he put that assessment is part of the instructional process. So how we guarantee that our student has achieved the intended learning outcome? Assessment is the way we know how the student achieved and what level the achievement is in terms of the objective, learning objective and outcome. So the position is we have to put assessment and testing. Testing is more formal, but the word assessment should be part of instruction. It's not apart from instruction. That's the idea. It's like preparing the lesson learned. Is the beginning, and then the end of the instructional cycle is the assessment process. So we have to put that as one integrated process. It's not apart from the instruction. It's not part of or from the teaching learning process. We sometimes have the obsession about the test because probably we have some standardized external assessment or testing system. But again, that's one of the keys. If we look at how, for example, Korea, Singapore, Japan has a very strict external examination system, for them it's okay. But again, in Indonesia, the debate is about the external assessment system. But for me, how we put assessment as, again, as part of daily teacher or lecturer job of the instruction.
Okay, thank you very much
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Professor Bahaya. And I'm sorry. Okay. And then maybe Professor Barbara, you can explain about this question. How about in Germany? Okay, for Professor Dr. Barbara, you tell that one of the competencies assessed in Germany is attitude.
Oh,
Maybe you
it's
can
difficult.
explain more clearly about the reason why attitude is one of competencies that's assessed in Germany.
It's not understandable, but I'm sorry. There is a double sound.
I'm so sorry. Saya nggak bisa pakai.
Iya, boleh.
Tes. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. For Professor Barbara, you tell that one of the competencies assessed in Germany is attitude.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe you can explain more clearly about the reason why this attitude one of the competencies that assessed in Germany.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, the competence is written down when we have our study programs are structured in modules, and we have to write the competences our students have to attain in each module. So the student knows what he is to expect. And interestingly, we write down the attitudes in the modules, but we don't assess it. We only assess I think the difficulty with attitudes is it's about things which are happening in the mind of the people. You can ask for attitudes by doing some questionnaires about motivation, for instance, but it's not possible to measure it directly. If we are doing assessment, we try to have at least inference of the teacher between measurement and the attainment of the student as possible to make it rather objective. And that's not possible with attitudes. But of course, you can, when they are doing group work, you can find out whether everyone was doing some part of the group work. You can do that. You also can, if you are doing e-lessons, which we are doing more and more, you find on the internet how did they attend every lesson, or did they only start at the end of the semester and then very quickly ran through the lessons things like that. But usually they get grades on the cognitive aspect. And of course, on the behavioral aspect, when they have to manage laboratory or something like that. But they don't get grades on the attitude aspect.
Okay, thank you very much. And there's 1 minute left.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Okay, Professor Barbara, I'd like to have a question for you. How to design the effective assignment? Effective assessment. Especially, we know that you travel a lot. To many countries and compare assessment from other university to with the other one. What is your opinion? How to design effective assessment?
How to design effective assessment?
Yeah.
Well, I would follow Professor, what's his name? Yeah, in telling that you can't plan assessment separately from planning teaching. Assessment must be part of your teaching plan. That is, when I plan to make them work in collaborative learning, I can't do some kind as multiple choice afterwards. When I want them to learn some terms by heart, it's very fine to give them some interesting kind of recollection task. So I always have to integrate my planning of assessment into my teaching. I can't do it separately. Think of the guidelines I showed you at the beginning. You always, the assessment is a part of my teaching. Also, perhaps I think this is a very difficult subject. So during the semester, I want to know, did they learn what I wanted them to learn? Or did they understand? And so you are going to do formative assessment. Again, it's part of your planning your teaching process. So effective assessment, in my eyes, is a kind of assessment which is matching the purposes of your teaching, the competences, and the assessment method. It's no isolated aspect. You have to put it together. That's what we learned by the Bologna process. Before, we had study program assessment, and it was two different things. And it was far from each other very often. What student did during his study program and what assessment was like, well, could be matched, but should not be. But nowadays, we have to match those. The way we are developing our lessons, our teaching, and the way we are assessing. And when we find out, well, I did some kind of assessment and students really understood the subject. So I did a very good kind of assessment. If I do some kind of assessment, I find afterwards, oh, they just learned by heart, which you really can notice in the results of the students, then my assessment was not a very good assessment. So you have no generally good methods of assessment. Depends on the teaching process, on the learning process, and on the and then on the including the assessment in the process.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. Purposive method and we have to matching. Match. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the session for again.
Udah tua.
Okay, I think the answer and the question session is finished. And for the question and answer for the participants, we can conclude that assessment on teaching and learning process in higher education in Korea is almost similar to Indonesia, but has a higher grade score. But when we compare to Germany, it's relatively different because in Germany, there is no middle test. Is that right? And only evaluation, but there is formative assessment.
But they are not graded with formative assessment. It's just like some kind of feedback for the teacher and for the students.
Oh, okay.
If you're doing formative assessment, you're not supposed to grade.
Oh, okay. Just feedback for students from the teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And yes. Yes. Any question again?
Yeah.
Oh, ya ada.
Sorry.
Yes, in chat room.
Firdausi.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
There is one question from Mr. Firdaus.
Okay, thank you
this
very
is
much.
the last question.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, really nice, yeah, attending in this webinar, I think, yeah, because the speaker have provided many perspectives regarding about assessment. I have a question for Mr. Bahrul. Yeah, maybe you have provide about regarding about the kind assessment regarding about PBL, PBL, problem-based learning. I think regarding in context Indonesia, I think it is yeah, you can explain more detail, yeah, regarding about the assessment. Why what advantage regarding about the assessment? Because in our country, I think many teacher, yeah, not so much understood, yeah, about the assessment. Yeah, that's all for me. Thank you very much. Yeah, maybe Mr. Bahrul provide more detail, yeah, regarding about assessment based learning. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Firdausi. So we understand that to achieve a certain learning goals or learning outcome, there are some competencies, either knowledge or skill that the students, and we can provide them with some assignment or learning tasks. Learning tasks can be individual students or student in group. Either in whatever choices, whether individually or in group, we can give the project. How big is the project? Again, it should be manageable in terms of time and the resources that we have to put on the project. So the project depends on the focus of the learning outcome, whether you want to develop more on the understanding the concept, or whether you want to know more on the application of a certain concept. So the project, it depends on the course and the study program. So probably in the media department or study program, the project can be on the media, but again, any type of media development can be part for the teachers, candidate teachers. So whatever the project is should link with your learning goal and learning outcome, and then specify what kind of learning task you want to give to make sure that this task can be the vehicle to achieve the learning outcome. So Pak Firdausi, once we give the assignment through the project, then the teacher will be the coach on step-by-step process of the between quad solving this kind of project. So that's, I think, the challenge to make sure that the students will understand what to do and how they will be graded and assessed based on this project. I think in terms of what kind of project, again, should be linked to what is the learning outcome you want to achieve in the context your course and also the study program. But the rubric should be very clear how to assess the project should be shared to the students. So the student understand and know the expectation about the assessment from the instructor or lecturers. Thank you, Pak Firdausi. Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. You are welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of webinar. Before I close this panel, I'd like to thank to all speakers today, Mrs. Professor Dr. Barbara Jurgens, Mr. Professor Bahrul Hayat, PhD, Mr. Gogot Suharwoto, PhD, and also Mr. Robetmi Jumpakita Pinem, MBA, for joining with us and give the informative and interesting and also stunning presentation. Thank you very much for all audiences being a wonderful participant during this webinar. Give the applause for the speaker and all of you. On behalf of my university, Jakarta State University, very much appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Thank you very much. Back to MC.
Okay, thank you very much for the moderator for the leading webinar session. Maybe we can hear the closing statement for the speaker. Is it allowed?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe Mr. Robetmi Jumpakita Pinem. Are you still in the Zoom?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Mr. Gogot still in the Zoom and Mr. Robetmi?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Maybe for the first, Mr. Robetmi, and then Mr. Gogot, and then Professor Bahrul Hayat, and the last Professor Barbara Jurgens to give the closing statement for this webinar. Time is yours. First, Mr. Robetmi Jumpakita.
Okay, maybe Pak Gogot first as the attaché of the education and culture to South Korea.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Robetmi. And then Mr. Gogot, please.
Yeah,
Give
thank
the
you.
closing statement.
Yeah, assessment is actually quite a valuable process. So the idea of assessing is to get the most valuable competencies on the student. So that's why evaluation is from the word of value. So how we can the value of our student. So the best that I can propose is the more information we get is the better of the assessment. In the technology era, so the portfolio project-based assignment will be a most recommended assessment. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gogot Suharwoto and Mr. Robetmi Jumpakita. And then Professor Bahrul Hayat, please give the closing statement to this webinar.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to share one statement. For me, assessment is a tool to understand the student learning better and also to understand the teacher teaching better. I think that's all. So we understand better by assessment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor. And last but not least, Miss Barbara Jurgens. Yeah, please.
Well, I think if we understand that assessment is not just grading students, but giving us information about our own teaching process, whether we were able to teach the right manner or not, then we are going to do reasonable assessment processes.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Barbara Jurgens. Thank you for all the speaker. Hopefully, the material from all the speaker can give us many benefit and new insight for us. As Mrs. Barbara Jurgens said that assessment is not about the grading, but about to see how we learn or how the teaching process the teacher do. Okay, thank you for all the speaker, Mr. Robetmi, Mr. Gogot, Mr. Bahrul Hayat, and then Mrs. Barbara Jurgens. And then for the next agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is to give souvenir. First for Mr. Gogot Suharwoto. Yep, this is the certificate for Mr. Gogot Suharwoto. And then for Professor Bahrul Hayat, PhD. Yep, this is the picture. Mr. Chala and Mr. Bahrul Hayat. And then last but not least, for Mrs. Barbara Jurgens, PhD, can someone to give the, in the Zoom too. Yeah, this is the certificate to Professor Barbara Jurgens, PhD. Thank you. Okay, thank you for all the speaker. Oh, Parobetmi, okay. Sorry. Okay. And then for Mr. Robetmi, jumpa kita Pinem. Yeah, okay. This is the certificate for all the speaker. Thank you very much for your time to give the great material to the webinar here. And then take a picture together. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, take a picture or closing? Closing, okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the last is the closing by Mrs. Mahdiah, the coordinator of the Education Magister Study Program and Education Evaluation at the State University of Jakarta. Please welcome Dr. Insinyur Mahdiah MKes. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. Praise and gratitude we pray to the presence of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His mercy and blessing, so that we can hold the international seminar of education. I would like to thank for our great speaker, Professor Bahrul Hayat, PhD. Thank you. From Indonesia, Mr. Gogot Suharwoto and Robetmi from South Korea, and Professor Barbara, PhD from Germany. Thank you. Thanks for sharing knowledge and experience for us. Alhamdulillah, I, as a head the master study program in educational research and evaluation, representing institutions and committees, feel honored and proud of the presence of the participant, your involvement in the discussion. During this seminar, this event wouldn't be success without the cooperation and dedication of all participants. Thank you for your great attention and cooperation. The main objective of this seminar is the assessment of teaching and learning process in higher education. But the most special and interesting in the topics is that we can listen together and compare how about teaching and learning assessment are carried out in 3 different countries: Germany, South Korea, and Indonesia. We hope through this seminar, we can take knowledge, innovation, and goodness of different things. First, different things that's suitable with our culture to improving the quality of education in our country. Lastly, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the entire committee team who have worked hard and dedicatedly in preparing for this event. Without their heart and collaborative spirit, this event wouldn't have been possible. Okay, I hope this event can provide great benefit for all participants who concerned in education, especially assessment and evaluation. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala always bless us in every step we take toward improving educational in Indonesia. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mrs. Mahdiah. And ladies and gentlemen, the agenda of our webinar is over. But before we end it, we take a picture together. Please, all the participants in the Zoom, open the camera and then we will take a picture together. Let's commit to take a picture together.
Bahwa Ibu menggunakan dengan pendekatan menggunakan stand.
Okay. Are the committee ready to take a picture together? Okay. First, let's open all your camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next slide. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next slide. 1, 2, 3. Next slide. 1, 2, 3. Next slide. Next slide. And next slide. Okay. Okay, for all the speaker. Thank you. Okay. Sudah? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for all the participants in this webinar. We hope that the webinar is useful, meaningful, and give us the new insight. And then, last but not least, I'm Walmah Nimatur Rahmah as the host would like to say thank you and apologize if there is something that is not pleasing. Best wishes to you all and see you again. Goodbye. Thank you.
Terima kasih Mbak Bahrul, Pak Prof. Assalamualaikum.
yang udah dipolitikan dulu gitu. Baru nanti diambil dengan tambahkan dengan yang MKM. Nah, sekarang kan Komandi sudah mencoba nih membuat mapping.
Halo, Assalamualaikum Bunda Ipah. Luring di ruang rapat. Halo Bunda Ipah.
Assalamualaikum Prof. Anan.